Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? Well, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain why I say that. For one, it is free, no cost associated with it. For two, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Now, Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you so it could be heard on platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Now, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenerships. And it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm, and that's ANCHOR.FM to get started.
Hey everyone, this is Lauren, and over here is my co host, which is Chris Werner. We own CW Outreach Agency, and this is our podcast. Today's podcast is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be kind of like an introduction. For instance, we're going to talk about ourselves just to introduce ourselves, introduce what our company is about, and we'll touch on some domestic violence issues as well as a little bit of relationship issues. Later in our podcast, we're going to kind of separate it where there's a little Bible study from Papa, which is my dad, Dale Carr, and there's going to be another one that's just basically for domestic violence and victims information. And then we're also going to have a podcast that deals with relationships. So let's start it off with Chris Werner, and he's going to tell you a little about himself.
Hi, my name is Chris. I was in law enforcement for 15 years. I responded to numerous calls for domestic violence. As I moved up in the ranks in the law enforcement, I was able to be and obtain the goal of an investigator. And I investigated everything from petty crimes, such as like somebody stole a pack of gum, all the way up to homicide. Now, with that being said, I was getting tired of arresting the same people over and over again for domestic violence. Now, with that being said, they would go and go to jail, they bond out, and then they go right back to the partner or house or spouse, whoever they're with at the time. And you could drive by a week later and they're perfectly fine. And then that night you're going back out there and arresting the same person again. So, what I was trying to do is try to figure out what is out there for somebody to change their behaviors, change their habits, and not be violent all the time. Because there's everything out there for the victim, but you don't hear anything a lot about for the batterer. Well, came across the BIT program, which stands for Batterer Intervention Prevention Program, and I started doing research and studying it, and finally was able to do some classes and host a BIT program. And through that period of time that I was doing some of the classes, I was sold because not only did I change for the better, but I saw the changes happening in the participants and the clients. Just the whole fact that they got to their core values, and we were able to identify their core values, and then to reteach them different ways to handle situations. And with that, it's been very successful. So that's one thing that I'm passionate about is trying to end domestic violence as much as we can. If we can't end it, at least put a dent in it. So that's enough about me. Let's hear from Lauren, and she is my wife, just in case you didn't know.
And we've been married for how many years?
Too long?
Hey.
16.
Anyway, my name is Lauren, and really, I, got out of high school and I wanted to go to college and become a nurse, and got married and divorced, and then, I'm just working normal, trying to deal with my normal life. Had a kid at that age, and well, I went back to school, and then I came across my husband. I met him on the internet, people, the internet, and it was singleparentsmeet.com, and which was a scary thing because, when you're from a town that only has a 2-lane highway, everybody is like, oh my goodness, she's brave. But everything turned out right. We've been married now for 16 years. It's kind of a his, mine, and ours family. He had 2 sons from a previous marriage, and I had a daughter from a previous marriage, and then we had Isabella, which is our daughter together. And our oldest is 21, and our youngest is 15. So, other than that, I homeschooled them most of their life, and I enjoyed every bit of it. And then I got out into the work field because my children were at the point in their life to be able to do it independently, and I work with them on the weekends. So I got out in the workforce and worked at an agency that dealt with outpatient treatment, and I loved helping people. And when, my husband got involved in this, I decided, you know what, I want to help him too. And it's just been amazing. I've learned so much about the domestic violence and victims, and I especially learned more of it by seeing a change in my husband Chris when he was teaching these clients about, what their core values are, what is actually causing them to become violent. And I think it goes unsaid that whenever, he was talking about domestic violence, when people think about domestic violence, they just think about somebody hitting somebody. And we're going to go into topics of that as well, but it's not just physical violence. There's emotional, there's financial, there's isolation. There's so many things that go unsaid because they're not reported. And it was just an eye-opening experience to me. And so on that point, we decided that we're going to help those that batter and we want to have them change. Well, in that instance, I also wanted to help others be able to better themselves. So I went and got certified in life coaching with a specialization in relationship coaching. So other than that, I mean, that's what, I'm about. In our agency, again, we do domestic violence with VIP. We also do anger management. My husband is certified with NAMA through anger management. And then we also have life coaching. So I am going to send this back off to Chris so he can start talking more about what BIP is all about.
Okay, well, the BIP program, like I said earlier, stands for the Batterer Intervention Prevention Program. And what that does is breaks up, has a curriculum of 24 weeks. And it breaks down each type of pattern of abuse and starts asking the guys questions to find out what their true belief was and how they feel about certain subjects. And then once they do that, we all as a group come together and we talk about it and basically give another scenario of the same type of deal that happened, while they're here or whatnot, and see how they would react and how they could have done it differently. And the thing is, that what's really awesome about the program is the men also hold each other accountable. If they see something that I miss, they turn around and say, hey, no, you can't do that. And vice versa, I could turn around and let them know, hey, no, you can't do that, and they respect it. It's kind of like, if you look at it, you build a relationship with the guys to where it's almost like a brotherhood. You would tell somebody in your family when they're messing up or anything like that, and you'll respect it. I mean, at first you might be a little upset, and it's like, oh, why are you calling me out and saying this when you're not in my shoes? And then to the point where you start thinking, it's like, you know what, he was right. And it's a fantastic group. And everybody that comes through this program does change for the most part if they want to. Now, that's the thing, is they're going to have that want. They can't just come in here and check boxes off and, just do it because, I was told I have to do it by this agency or that agency. If they're here to change, they will change. And they change wholeheartedly.
It's all about the desire and the passion to change their life and to better their family. And that's what our goal is, to help them in that. And, people think, well, domestic violence is mainly men being the batterers. That's untrue. Females do it as well. But unfortunately, it goes unreported because men dealing with pride issues, or they just, embarrassment, they don't want to say that their wife, smacked them around or anything like that. So it's not, when you're talking about domestic violence, it doesn't matter if you're male, female, what race you are, what ethnicity you are, if you're, rich, or if you're poor, if you're a celebrity, or you're just a waitress. It happens to everyone. It doesn't, there's no prejudice to it. It's like it'll attack anybody. And a lot of the domestic violence issues, it starts with anger. And that's why we're also doing anger management, because maybe we can control that anger before it envelops into domestic violence. So with our part, we're just doing our best to stop it and to fix it, where these families can come back together and be reunited with their children.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the fact that we also offer the teen anger management as well, because we have to start it when they're young. That's where we have to start the training process.
It's all about prevention.
Yeah. You have to start when they're young, because when they're growing up, and this, if they see that in their family dynamics, and they see some type of abuse, more than likely that's how they're going to turn out, because they're a product of their environment.
Exactly, and that brings me to an amazing movie. It's called The Cycle, and it can be seen on Amazon Prime. It shows you what BIP is all about. It puts you in like that group, and you're seeing all these people and their stories and how they come together and realize, man, I shouldn't have done that. And you also see the people in that group that were successful and others that were there just to check the boxes off. And it's all true stories, amazingly true stories. And hopefully we'll be able to get the producer director on a future podcast. It's an amazing movie. Again, it's The Cycle, and you can see it on Amazon Prime.
And like she said, I've watched that movie the first time, and I had to watch it again just to see. And say, you know what? That's pretty darn accurate with everything that goes on. And again, you'll see in that movie where the people that have the desire and the want to change, and the ones that were there just checking off boxes, and they're just doing it because, this agency told me I had to do it.
And which it brings me in with that movie, it only takes one incident of domestic violence. I don't care if it's a punch or a hit. It can be one of those incidents that causes that other person to die. And that's what it's about. It only takes one hit. And I mean, you'll see everywhere in the news about domestic violence. You can see them on Yahoo. You could see them on CNN. You can see them on People. And there was a article that I found this morning. It said, Utah man sentenced to 30 years for killing his wife on an Alaskan cruise. It's chilling neglect for human life. A Utah man has been sentenced to 30 years in federal prison for the brutal murder of his wife during a 2017 cruise to Alaska. Back in February, this man pleaded guilty to the second-degree murder of his wife while the two were on the Emerald Princess cruise ship celebrating their wedding anniversary, and their 3 daughters and extended family were also there. So, I mean, can you imagine? You're celebrating your anniversary, and then it can happen. So it doesn't matter. Domestic violence isn't a special occasion thing. It happens. It's not between the hours of 8 and 5. It's a 24/7 problem. And this person that, what he did plead guilty, and he is serving 30 years in federal prison. However, it's not going to bring the wife back to the family. It's not going to bring the wife back to her parents so they can have their daughter. So it takes a life. He may not have meant to actually kill her, but the blunt force trauma that he did ended up killing her.
Yeah, a little bit more about that. When they were on a cruise ship, what happened was they got in an argument when they got back to the room. And during that argument process, the wife asked for a divorce. And at that time, he told 2 of his 3 kids to go into the other bedroom, which, the kids did. And, they started arguing and escalated. And it got to the point where the kids were hearing everything. So they snuck out of that room and started looking into the parents' room, I guess it is, or
yes,
like a cabin. And started watching, and they saw their dad over their mom punching her in the head with a closed fist. And just the devastation those kids saw what happened. And what happened, and after that, of course, her 2 brothers, I think it was, came in, and they pulled him off before he was able to dump the body
off the balcony. And they tried to revive her. They had paramedics and medical personnel try to revive her, but unfortunately, it was unable to happen. And they said that her death was ruled as blunt force trauma to the head and face. And I just want to, I'm not going to mention any names or anything, but I do lift up that family in my prayers, because losing a loved one is hard, especially when, it's supposed to be a memorable event and they were there, and, that's done. So I just lift them up in your prayers, and I ask that you do as well.
And also, with the kids, they're going to have some type of counseling because of what they saw. According to the article, when they walked in, when law enforcement or their security team walked in, there was blood all over the cabin. So it was a continuous deal. Now, let's kind of step back and look at this. For something like that to happen, there had to be some other type of domestic violence in their relationship prior because they were high school sweethearts. So there had to be some type of violence going on, either emotional or physical. I mean, financial. It could have been anything. And then for him to take that next step to go to, maybe it just was the first time they were physical. Why did he do it? That's a question that we'll never know. However, I will say this, when somebody's in a stressful situation, you do have two sides of the brain. You got your evolved brain and your primitive brain. And when you're getting into a stressful situation, you tend to go to your primitive brain, and that's yeah, I know it's kind of weird. It's called a primitive brain, but that's called your consequences. When you're in your primitive brain, you have your consequences. So when you do things that you act out that you normally wouldn't do by using your evolved brain. And I think what happened was during an argument, he went from 0 to 10, and 10 being the worst in the evolved brain, or excuse me, in the primitive brain. And he resulted to violence. Now, if there was a way that he could have de-escalated himself, there's always that possibility that this wouldn't have happened because there's so many tools out there to where he knew at one time he was getting agitated. It doesn't matter if you don't think so, or it doesn't matter if I don't think so, but it's just like everybody else. If you sit back and you look at your body language and the way you feel, you know when you're getting angry, and you know when you can step outside and take a cool off. But you have to learn how to step back.
Well, I have a question for you. Is it ever appropriate for someone to express anger in a physical way?
No.
Okay, so what about when kids get mad? Are they allowed to hit a pillow? Are they able to do that? Or does that train them that it's okay to hit things?
To me, from what I've researched or anything like that, that pretty much kind of teaches them it's okay to hit things when they're angry. And that's what they go and resort to. There you get, this is a good example here is, let's say they get in a stressful situation. Well, when they were kids, and that's what happens when you go in your primitive brain, you go back to your adolescence years. So they're used to hitting something, so that's what would happen.
Okay, well then let's follow it up with this question. If parents are listening right now, let's say they have a child who is acting out, they're hitting, they're screaming, they're mad. What are good positive ways that the parents can talk to their kids about what's good healthy ways to deal with expressing their anger? Do you have any ideas?
I would just basically sit the children down or the child down and ask them, okay, hey, I understand, just what you tell me, I understand you don't know how to express how you're feeling in words, but let's try to talk about it and let's look at things a little differently. Okay, let's say they're throwing a fit or a temper tantrum or whatever you want to call it, because let's say you go to Walmart or to the toy store and they didn't get a toy, so they're really mad about it. Well, that's when you got to sit them down and explain to them why they didn't get a toy or what they wanted at that time. And, and it's okay that they have a little outburst. It is okay because they got to get that anger out somehow. As long as they're not hitting, pushing, anything violent, it's okay. Because, again, like I said, at that age, they don't know how to use the word. So they have to get the anger out somehow. But I wouldn't recommend letting them, me personally, I wouldn't recommend letting them hit a pillow, because if ever they're in a stressful situation, they're going to revert back to that and think it's okay to go hit. And, if there's no pillow around, who are they going to hit?
That's great information. And parents out there, if you have any questions that you would like to submit about maybe your child acting out or ways to, go around it and help them be able to process that anger, please feel free to message us. We are on Facebook, CW Outreach Agency. Also, you can always email me a question and we can discuss it on our podcast, and you will be able to remain anonymous. My email is lauren@cwoutreach.org, and that's spelled LAUREN @cwoutreach.org. So if you have any questions as parents, feel free to submit them so we can discuss them on our podcast. Now, I have one more question for you,
Okay.
Chris. Okay, so, when people have to, you think you should have the final say in your decisions, right? Should they be logic or emotion? how would you base final decisions? Would it be logical or go with your emotions? What's the smartest way to do it?
The smartest way to do it is logical, but in I would go with logical, but both parties would have to be in some type of agreement.
So compromise.
Yes, you would have to sit back and talk to your partner and say, okay, hey, let's talk about this. And if it does get heated at that time, because sometimes it does get heated, especially if, let's say, it comes to a big purchase, and it gets heated, turn around, it's like, okay, well, I need to step back for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, cool down, and to come back and readdress the situation. And when you go into that conversation, let's say you're looking for a new family vehicle, okay, and you're looking at, let's say, a Yukon, and it's okay. Let's say it's like $60,000 for it. All right, and your spouse or your partner turn around and say, "Hey, we don't have that kind of money to finance right now. We have, let's say, $30,000. So when you go in that argument, you have to have some type of compromise. So yeah, I'm going to shoot for the goal of trying to get a Yukon, but I'll get a Durango or I'll get a Blazer or something like that. You have to have that compromise with there. So this way here, you're going to the table with other options rather than just that.
So, I mean, from what I've known and what I've researched, most arguments that happen with, couples, whether they're married or just dating, deals with financial issues. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so when you're looking with financial issues, it's all about conversation. You've got to communicate. And in relationships, if there's not good communication, it's going to be toxic. You have to open up. You have to tell your feelings to your other partner, which also deals with relationships. So we're jumping off into a little bit of a relationship part of our podcast, which usually it'll be separate. But relationships, I'm not saying there's not going to be little tiffs and fights and arguments. It's just how you go about those. But always have good communication skills. And Chris and I, we have gotten so much better with communication. If something's bothering me, I'm able to trust him and go to him. And he even gets mad, like if I'm saying like, oh, it's just stupid that this thing is bothering me and this is bothering me and stressing me out. He'll tell me, no, it's not stupid. It doesn't matter if it's not stressing me out. If it's stressing you out, then let's figure something out. He doesn't go and try to fix it. He lets me talk and we work on it together. And it's all about teamwork. So Chris, I have a question for you. This is off of the, out in the universe, okay? If a fire destroyed your home and all of your belongings, what would you do? If you could take out 3 things before the blaze, what would they be? And we're going to assume that no one is in the house at that time of the fire. What 3 things would you take out of the house?
That's a tricky question.
He's got too much tombstone stuff. That's the problem.
I would say I would grab all my tombstone stuff, but I honestly, I would. You said there's nobody in the house.
No one's in the house. No dogs. Nothing.
Okay,
they're all safe.
So all the pets are gone too.
Correct. This is just 3 things.
The 3 things. I wouldn't worry about anything. I just make sure that you're out of the house.
You're not listening. See, ladies, sometimes they don't listen. We're already out of the house. What 3 things would you take? Let me help you. My first thing that I would take, and this is going to sound very, very weird, is my pillow. I love my pillow. It is my safe zone. It's soft. It's that cooling pillow. That would be one thing I would take. For sure.
Again, that's all just things. All things could be replaced.
The question says you have to choose 3 things.
I have to choose 3 things. The 3 things I would choose, I guess, if I had to and I didn't have a choice. I would grab our safe.
Okay.
I would grab.
That's smart. I didn't even think about that.
I would grab whatever pictures I could grab, of the kids and us together and the family. Other than that, I really can't think of a third one unless I grab a drink on the way out from the fridge.
Okay, then we'll compromise. And so you said you're going to grab the safe, you're going to grab the pictures, and since you couldn't think of a third one, we're going to compromise and you're going to grab my pillow.
No, that's too bulky.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, just think about it. These are certain questions you can ask your significant other just to see what they would say, start up a conversation, and it could just be even sometimes quite funny. Let's see here. I've got one. And I'm going to send out a questionnaire. I'm going to do it over Facebook. And if you want it, please email me and I'll send it to you. It'll be where it's anonymous. I'm going to ask certain questions and we're going to kind of do and see, what this person, says and what this person says. For instance, this is one that I want you to think about. If you can rate 5 things, 5 qualities in the person that you're with right now, what 5 things on a scale from 1 to 10? Okay. So, well, actually 1 to 5 because it's 5 things. So 1 being the most important, 5 being the least important. Like, would it be honesty? Would it be integrity? Would it be intelligence? Would it be sense of humor? Good looks? Anything that you can think of, rate that on what you seek in a relationship so we can also talk about that.
Well, you said that if they were interested, they could email you, and that you're gonna post it on Facebook. I mean, they could go to our Facebook page and like it and answer the kind of like the survey type there, or you could put a link to it.
That's what I was going to do on Facebook too, as well.
Because we do have a Facebook page, and it is CW Outreach.
All right, so let's get deeper with these questions. See, I'm throwing him off because he didn't know what I printed over here. I have several, and I wanted to, kind of shock him and see what he was going to say on here. Here is the last question for just to open everything up. What feeling, Chris, do you have the most difficulty expressing? Ooh, if we had sound effects. Do.
I would think the one that have the most difficulty expressing is probably love.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's just hard. I know I love you. I know I love the kids and everything like that, but sometimes it's just hard to express the feelings on love, on how much I do love everybody. And it really is hard for me to express that emotion. I don't know if it was because when I was a cop, that you take your emotions and you get rid of all of them. Because if you don't, you're not going to make it in law enforcement.
Yeah, didn't you always say you'd always put your feelings in a box and hide them in the top of the closet?
No, I always said I'd take my feelings, put them in a box, throw them in the closet, and lost them.
Oh, okay. Well, I was somewhat right.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the hardest ones. I try to have my actions show it. And there's times there that it's hard to express it because I don't know how to put it in words. I don't.
Okay, so when you're doing your BIP groups, are you the only one that feels that, or just other group members also have that same problem?
Oh, there's other people that have that same problem. It's just, I guess maybe being a guy, expressing emotions and stuff like that, it's just, you don't normally do it.
Guys, let me just tell you a little hint. Women love the little things. You could just put a post-it note on their mirror saying, "Girl, I love you. Honey bunny, you're looking good this morning." Anything like that. Just a post-it note, a sticker. Just do not use their lipstick because that messes it up.
Yeah, I did that
once. Well, go back to your groups with that since we kind of went off on a little ADD tangent. Did you, in your groups, you're teaching them, right? Mm-hmm. So tell me about, do they teach you as well?
Oh, I learn just as much from them as they do from me every day. If I can't learn something from them, then I might as well just hang up my my certificates and my certification stuff like that and just walk out.
See, that's based on relationships. So we're not over here working just to, make a living. We're building relationships with others. We're wanting to outreach and reach as many people as we can. We become a family. We don't just, after they're done with any program, any not counseling, but coaching session, we sit there. We're friends for life. We are going to be there through the thick and thin. And even after you're done with our programs, we're still going to reach out and we're still going to be here for you.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. I talk to guys still almost every other day. If not, if they can't talk to me every other day, they call me at least once a week and I call them. And, it is a extended family because you do grow that relationship with them. You do, once they graduate, you could go ahead and become their friend. Yes, you are their friend, and I ain't gonna lie, you do become their friend in the program. But after they graduate and you see the change and you can see this, then you went with them, or you went through the roughest time that they had with them, and you stood by there and you gave them somebody that they can trust. And that's something that I don't look at lightly. I'm sorry if I was there for you, and I'm gonna be there for you for the whole thing, to the day I die.
Because you want to do your best to make sure that they stay changed, and that if anything comes up that makes them feel, upset or angry, that they can call you and you can calm them down and remind them, hey, do this instead.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be. I don't know how many times my phone rang in the middle of the night because of something, and we ended up talking for an hour, hour and a half, and everything ended up being calmed down. And those are the moments that I don't know if I'd be speaking out of turn, but I think those are some of the moments and memories that guys remember the most. That there is somebody there that they can rely on, to help them through stressful situations until, they're able to get it 100% on their own.
I love the program that we're doing because we are outreach and we care about each and every one of our clients. We love and care about the people that we work with, whether it's OCOK, any of the victim places that we can send people. We just love dealing with the people that we work with because we're all wanting to work together to drive this change. And this change, I believe, will make the future a whole lot better. Do you have anything else to add for this podcast, Chris?
No, I don't. Other than that, thank you for listening, and hope to talk to y'all again.
And again, this was just kind of a, introduction and explaining a little bit about ourselves and what we do, and a little bit on touching certain portions of our podcast that we're going to do. Next week, we're going to release, I think we're going to try to do at least 2 podcasts a week. But again, please reach out to me if there is a topic, or if there's any questions, or if you would like to be a guest on our podcast to, talk about what you've experienced. You're more than welcome to. You can always call us at the office. That phone number is 254-459-4690. Or again, you can email me at lauren@cwoutreach.org, or you can go to our website, which is www.cwoutreach.org, and there's a contact us there, and you can do that as well. Okay. Other than
yes. I do have one more thing I forgot to say. Of course, you're gonna want to stay tuned because we will have, so far that we know of, 2 special guests that are going to be joining our podcast one day, probably here within the next month or so. So you might want to stay tuned for that.
Other than that, I hope you all have a great weekend, and we
Party
love
on,
you.
dudes.
Yeah, no, and we love each and every one of you. And again, make sure you keep your cool.